week of the Bondex live stream. I'm Ignacio Palomera, the CEO, co-founder of the company, and we have a special guest here today from Darewise and the maker of the game Life Beyond, Ben Charbit, here to tell us about GameFi, some of the games that are coming up in this space. And just to give a quick intro, Darewise is an indie game company or game studio that is metaverse-like blockchain online game making called Life Beyond. It's got a very, very experienced team of developers who believe in the positive power of online video games, something we're going to talk about, sucking in versus positive adding metaverse and video games. And they want to create a meaningful, interactive, and social interactions. The company is developing experiences that go beyond simple entertainment. And they are part of the Animoca Brands company subsidiary, which is one of the largest Web3 companies in the world. So we're very excited to have him today. And with that, Benjamin, I give it to you. Tell us about your background. How did you get into this and the origin story of the company?
Thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation. Always happy to tell more about our story. To talk very quickly about myself, because I'll enjoy talking more about Darewise, Life Beyond, and the amazing thing that we're developing together. But I go way back now developing games in the AAA game industry. I had a few years of experience in banking before. That's how I started my career, and in a way decided that it was not the best area for me to explore my creative side, and so I joined Ubisoft. Did a bunch of stuff there. Eventually became one of the game directors of Assassin's Creed. Work on Assassin's Creed Black Flag in particular. Collaborated. Sorry?
Big fan of your work.
Thank you. It was obviously a collective effort. On an Assassin's Creed game, the team size peaks at like 1,000 people over 5 or 6 studios. So it was definitely not the accomplishment of a single man, but great experience. Obviously, had the chance to collaborate on other really cool franchises such as The Division, Ghost Recon. So really loved all the this creative work that I was offered to do there. And it's also where I met a bunch of my co-founders and leadership team at Darewise, where we worked together over there, collaborating on different projects with our Vincent, our chief product, Mark, our chief creative, Vincent, or Sam, our CTO, who's also my co-founder. So great. That was really a very defining moment in my career, obviously. And back in a few years ago now, and 2018, we opened the studio with a very strong intention to build the next generation of MMO games. We were fascinated. We're all MMO natives at Darewise. We played all of them from Ultima Online to World of Warcraft, Star Wars Galaxies, EVE Online. You can name. We probably played it. And what was fascinating to us is that we really went so far in these games that eventually we played for some other reasons than fun. We played because some of us were running communities, some others were competitive players and just wanted to overachieve. Some started running businesses with power leveling or gold farming. And so we kind of, I think, all nurtured the fantasy of what if eventually we could become the citizens of a digital society. And when we started putting the first bricks of Life Beyond, that was definitely the goal. What does it feel? What would it be if we could be in an MMORPG, but this time we could be whoever we want and no longer limited to being the hero? We could be the hero, but we could also be the farmer, the merchant, the engineer, the politician, and together kind of built a very meaningful life in a digital space. And of course, this happened at the same time as Web3, blockchain technologies, NFT, ERC20 tokens started to rise and became a fantastic tool to start sharing the ownership of the assets, of the value with the community. And this time we finally had the tool to properly power a player-driven economy. So this is where we are now. Of course, we had a crazy journey. Grew the team to 100 people. We opened 3 studios now. in Paris, in Barcelona, and in London. And we got acquired, as you said, by Animoca Brands early 22. So definitely been a hell of a ride, but loved every minute of it.
That's wow, quite the journey there. Ubisoft is obviously one of the mavericks. I started in banking as well, by the way. I'm also TradFi now, fighting for the freedom of the internet and to disrupt, you know, in our case, professional networks with a Web3 model. In your case, the video game industry. So that's fantastic. So my first question would be, would you say that the difference between MMO games, which I would say are the original metaverses, and now, what you're creating, which is a metaverse-like blockchain company, which, the ownership of the digital assets one works is owned by the creator, right? The gamer now has much more stake and ownership into the game. But what would you say is the main difference between that? Would you consider MMO games the original metaverse? And what's the difference between
Absolutely.
that?
I mean, metaverse, I don't know, but for sure, because for sure, the very first social networks, or part of the first wave of social networking. So back in the days, I'm close to 40 now. So let's go back to when I was 12, 13, 14. I was hanging out on ICQ, on IRC. This is where online communities were forming. The beginning of esport started to um, bloom over there. And so we already, like, when people got crazy about Facebook, I was like, guys, we've been doing this for a lot for a long time, and rather much more meaningful way. Uh, like World of Warcraft, I think was fascinating, as you could be in a capital, you could be in Stormwind or Ironforge and just hang out for hours. And every day, that's what people would do. They would clock out of work at 6 p.m. or, back from college or from school, and they would connect and spend 2, 3 hours while actually playing for maybe 45 minutes. But the rest of the time, they would be hanging out, with their guild members and just chatting or trading, doing a bit of crafting. So yes, I would say it felt like a metaverse, but when I go back to kind of the metaverse literature, which is what drew me into this, back in 2014, I'm still at Ubisoft, and I get recommended to read a book called Rimdy by Neil Stephenson. So it was not Snow Crash, it was Rimdy, even though the concept of metaverse was born in the book of Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, but Rimdy was a thriller taking place in an MMO. And this is as I started pulling the strings, this is when I started to discover more and more of this idea of a metaverse. And I think what was really carried was this idea of an additional layer that really impact your life in a meaningful way. I would say that back then, MMOs would definitely, for some people, a very small amount of people, impact them meaningfully. We know that a lot of friendships were formed. I met a lot of friends there. Some people, a few people got married. So that dramatically it impacted their lives. But of course, there was no concept of ownership of your content, which
Right. The
dramatically,
publisher keeps everything to themselves,
yeah.
monopolizing
So
the
it
data.
all limited, the space for innovation, the space for entrepreneurship, and kind of created a virtual ceiling of your experience, which would be basically the capacity of the developer to push more content. So I would not say maybe that it was the first metaverse, but it was definitely a first flavor of what the metaverse could be if it was decentralized. That's how I would say I would answer your question.
That's super cool. I had never drawn that comparison, but talking to you, I just thought those were probably the original concept for this. And now I want to hear about Life Beyond. What is it that you guys are cooking up at Darewise? Tell us about your game. What's special? What
Yeah,
can
yeah.
we
Well,
be excited about?
listen, obviously, it's kind of a dream project. To be honest, it feels like it's in a way, it's the game that at least most of us at Darewise have been dreaming of for a long time. The reason is just because it's the biggest, like you'll see by what I'm going to explain to you, but it's basically the biggest game we've ever built. So if I give you like the high level kind of executive pitch,
This is counting your Ubisoft days.
oh yeah, it's much bigger than what we did on Assassin's Creed, for instance. So we're gonna have to be patient. It's gonna take a long time to build, but the development process is very different, and I think we should talk about this because it's radically different. So Life Beyond, at first, it's a story of hope. We're in the face of adversity and choices that uh, basically shape your destiny. We're giving the opportunity to the players to decide how this whole thing will unfold. It's a game of exploration. It's a game of economy and social building. It's a game of discovery in a really vast, vast open world. To set a little bit the backstory, so the year is 2081, and humanity is on the brink of collapse. Poverty is rampant, and the world is very controlled by heavy administration, concentrated corporations, a very powerful AI network that controls the global economy, and that was written before ChatGPT. But when eventually we started discovering the remnant of an ancient civilization on Mars, and that triggered a new hope because we sent a team of explorers through a wormhole that we discovered on Mars, and that took us to a planet called Dolos, where they discover a world that is full of incredible technology and insane possibilities. But as they begin to settle in this new frontier, they quickly realize that the planet is actually not uninhabited. There are powerful alien entities that are left behind as protectors of the ancient relics that are there. Are basically threatening to destroy the new colony. And so, despite this danger, the first explorers, they keep pushing forward, and they want to build a new society there and unlock all its capacity, all its possibilities. So, as a player, you're basically an agent participating to this endeavor, to this journey, to build this new civilization. But the world is not, very friendly right now. So as you enter into this experience, you will have to go through several stages. The first one is obviously to uh, secure the world, secure the region where you are, so you can build, so you can eventually start building the foundation of your community, and eventually grow it into more advanced societies, more advanced economies. So three stages: pioneering, settling, governing. That each region, because the world will be divided into several regions, and every region will be divided into lands, and so all of these regions will go through these three stages. But we plan to release all of the regions over the course of 10 years, so that whenever you enter the game, you will have some regions that will be in settling, some regions that would be in pioneering, some regions that will be in governing. So different experiences, different flavors, some cooperative action, combat gameplay, exploration, archaeology, resource collection, at the same time as building, crafting, management gameplays, and obviously the more metaversy type of experience, which is more social, venues and stuff. So that's why I'm saying it's so much bigger, because basically we're building 10 games in one.
Interplanetary scale, decade-long timeline. This has never been done before. This is extremely exciting.
And so it's a really good point that you're raising. It could not have been done in the Web 2 world, because no the problem with the Web 2 world is you always want to get close to the real estate, to start communicating about your project. You need, because how do you raise money from venture capital? They want to see your retention metrics, and so you need to have a product, basically. So or the beginning of a product to do that, and so with what I'm talking about, of course, it was going to take us a long time to get there. But in the Web3 world, where you are actively co-developing, co-creating with your community, we're not closing anything. We're not keeping anything close to our chest. It's the opposite. We just published our roadmap for 2023, and the roadmap is about first delivering a social hub in basically Q1 that is going to be running 24/7, and that is going to be the hub onto which we're going to start plugging prototypes, visual benchmarks, basically things as we develop them. They're going to be published so we can get the feedback, share some really share some conversation about designs. And so some stuff are going to be coming out like fresh out of the oven, uh, gray box, no texture, just gameplay. What do you guys think about it? Let's get on to calls, which we actually start already doing now with our group of founders, and we're going to obviously keep expanding that. So then, of course, the journey is very different, and you can do that because you're collaboratively building this, which is fascinating and so much more rewarding for people like us.
I mean, beyond fascinating. And you're exactly right. When you're building in Web3, this is something we found. You start with what you call the external network effects. So tribalism, FOMO, and the community, right? So what you end up with is you can build products that have community market fit before you have product market fit, right? And so essentially your business model is very clear. The market is not, right? But you go hand in hand with the users, and they have an upside because they're helping you build from the beginning, right?
And obviously, like, I wouldn't want to kind of over leverage this idea of, oh, we just need to have our community and it doesn't matter if we have a product, because this is a little bit the excess that I see happening, that has happened, end of 2022. But it's more that, what is the, like, we were for it's like for 30 years, when you study marketing, they say, what's your target audience? And when you do that, it's like it assumes you've built a product, and now you're trying to,
Which is
you figure
like
out the target audience for this product.
Which is like guessing in the dark. You're just making a bunch of assumptions. Really, there's
Yeah.
no true science, right? So
And,
here,
and I want to do it the other way. Like, I want to gather the people who we want to, the people that, I don't know, we feel connected with because we share common values, common interests, and then be like, okay, what is it that we are building? Of course, we have 20 years of experience, so we obviously have to bring some value to the table, which is that we think we know, or at least that we can intuit, but we can totally be wrong. And in any case, even if we're 80% right, the point is about being 100%. And this is where the participation to the community is so much more, is so valuable. And then instead of just building something then trying to market it, we co-build, and we do baby steps feedback, baby steps feedback, which, by the way, will also implies a slower development process. But because now when we do that, it's also attached to some form of monetization through token sale, through NFT sale, through secondary market. Then you can also kind of rationalize. Yes, it's costing a bit more as a developer, but there is a business model that can support this. At the end of the day, it's win-win. We're all sharing the benefit of this, the victory, even though it might have taken a bit longer.
I think it'll be well worth the wait and patience to create these products that will disrupt the big behemoths, right? And you want to take more time if you're going to challenge the Ubisofts or the LinkedIn's or Googles of the world with these products that share the economics with the users, right? So it's about having patience. And I say it, I think there was a bit of a negative mindset in Web3 of quick buck, short incentives, and people need to have that long incentives, and they just need to choose well. Okay, do I believe in life beyond, and I believe in this team, and I think it's going to be worth putting in my time into being one of these first creators, and I'll have upside in the game. Then do it, and find your community, find your tribe that you want to allocate that time to. But don't think it's going to be a quick buck or something that's not going to take time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and these products and services will not be built in a day. And so that before we go into the talent talk, which is what we specialize here at Bondex, and I'd love to hear more about your token design and your economics design. How do you redistribute that value to the users and those people who are creating?
So I'm going to share a few things. None of them have really been published yet because we're still working on it. But at least I can give you a few.
Don't give us a secret sauce. Just maybe
no. It's not about the secret sauce. It's just because I think the problem, honestly, that we've had in Web3 is that people keep making statements out there, and publishing white papers when that are supposed to be a commitment when they have not even completed the pre-production. And that to me was like insane. It's like you are saying we're gonna give you this, but you have not done the homework, and the homework is not writing a paper. The homework is like building prototypes, like testing things to see if that actually works out. So that's why we're being very careful. We actually even removed our light paper from the website because a lot of the things were inaccurate. Um, a lot of it was actually much better than what we had in the paper, but it just because of course when people talk about like the land design, for instance, when they haven't even built a first prototype of the land, to me it's and this is why we had so many sinisters in the space, and that hopefully now more like I think there's a wave of very experienced developer now joining, and this will radically change the how it works. So going back to Life Beyond, it's pretty simple. The first thing is we are going to be running on a dual token system, one that is by definition a currency. And a currency means a value, a reserve of value. It's Econ 101 that is designed to facilitate transactions between two agents. It also means that a currency, by definition, is not supposed to be a thing you invest in because it's not supposed to grow in value significantly. Otherwise, cannot keep your economy stable. So the point of a currency is that it's a tool, not an investment vehicle. So we have one token called the DOL token that is going to be really here as let's say, the in-game currency. And we have a second token, which is the Earth money, which will be also an ERC20 token, that this time is a governance token packed with a bunch of very valuable utility, which is the only token that will give you the opportunity to participate to the Web3 features or the decentralized world for Life Beyond. What I mean by that is that the first DOL token will actually be running on a side chain that we do on purpose because we want to make it extremely friendly for the non-Web3 players. We want these Web2 players to come, never need a wallet, and just play with a login and a password. So their crypto wallet that's going to be running on the block on a sidechain will actually be run in a custodial way. But one thing that we're providing that is going to be very important is that we are also providing through what we call the central bank an AMM that will give you the opportunity to swap your DOL token, so that in-game currency, for the Web3 decentralized token, the Earth money, and vice versa. So that's the first thing to answer your question. The second thing is that obviously every time we take we capture a royalty in Earth money on any form of transaction, because this is the currency this is the token that will be used to purchase NFTs, for instance, and this is a limited supply token, then we will split this royalty between the DAO, basically between the treasury, and which will be managed by the DAO, and between Darewise. And what we are working on right now, so that's why I can't give you more precise numbers, is how we want to balance this. We have a very interesting approach, which is that we want to set a group of KPIs that allow to either distribute more to Darewise or more to the treasury. For instance, let's say if we have an oligopoly in the DAO, we don't want to over distribute to the DAO because that would concentrate the wealth too much in the hands of a small group of people. And obviously, nurturing the ethos of decentralization, we don't want to recreate some form of centralization. If on the flip side we had a very, very large distributed control of the DAO, then we would distribute way more to the treasury and capture less at Darewise. Of course, we also need to be able to capture some of this royalty to be able to fund the development. because we need to fund this operation and we need to create the proper financial incentives for the company and for the employees. But this is really something that we're trying to work right now, and we're very lucky because, of course, we have Animoca brands, but we also have, and it hasn't been announced yet, but a series of partners who are like close members in our ecosystem, so that also trying to help us really setting the right thing. But we're trying to be quite decentralized from the get-go, and you'll see when we start publishing the token allocation for the Earth money that we're going pretty decentralized already.
I'm a big fan of your token design. One, because I think it is, how do we create mass adoption of blockchain? People not even realizing that they're blockchain, right? At the end of the day, the value that you're adding is that you have a super fun, interplanetary scale MMO game, and people should come for that, which will attract Web2 users, but you're not making it hard for them, right? But if you're actually a Web3 person and you want to actually have some economic upside, not just play the game, then you have the option through the dual token design. It depends on how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole, right? So I think that is very smart. That will enable, again, mass adoption without making it difficult. It's not just for early adopters, right? It's for
the truth is, we're not here just to, we're not building such a massive project for only 3 million crypto gamers. Like we collectively, I'm part of these 3 million players, but we need to make it interesting, accessible, easy for these 3 billion players to come and join us. Because that obviously, this is the network effect you're talking about. The more players we are, the more value we get. So we need to make it easy. We need also to have the proper incentives for us, the early adopters, to participate and to contribute to the growth as ambassadors to this experience. So I think you're absolutely spot on your summary of how we're approaching things. So this is totally how we do it.
I mean, it's because, why am I so aligned? Because it's something that I thought about very carefully, and something that's going into our token design as well. That, at the end of the day, I think in blockchain, we've made a bit of an exaggeration in trying to explain everyone the technology, when, mass adoption comes from the moment my grandma got an iPhone to her sending me a WhatsApp voice note. So me getting an iPhone to my grandma sending me a WhatsApp voice note, 15 years, right? How do we want to get, so blockchain is there, it needs to be seamless, it needs to be in the background, not in your face, right? That's how we get to that 3 billion players from the 3 million today, right? So to make that happen, you need to do, what you guys are doing. So I love the mission. We're very aligned. And the last thing I want to touch on a few things, which is your team, how you go about talent. So we at Bondex, we are running a democratized talent protocol. So we're bounty-based for referrals, crowdsourcing the recruitment process, as well as tokenizing and gamifying our professional network. So the thesis of it is, a talent marketplace is a supply-constrained marketplace, but all talent platforms, Web2 talent platforms, they all care about the incentives and the kind of the experience of the employers versus the users, right? The talent. So we're focusing on them and their incentives, and that will create better data and better hiring cycles, and higher engagement, right? That's the whole premise of it. So as we're launching our Web3 portal to market, job portal to market, I love to talk to companies in different verticals of Web3 to see how they go about, making their teams. So, I was reading that you guys grew very fast. You went from 30 to 100 employees, I think, over the last year. You have the market brands behind you, full steam ahead. I'd love to know, and I read your careers page, which, by the way, I recommend everyone listening to this to go check it out, because they're very clear about the ethos. It's titled, "You'll Love It Here If," and they have things that say, if you share that belief, how you do anything is how you do everything. Big or small, each task is processed with the same diligence. This is great onboarding right here, and great setting of the stage, because it means you're probably globally distributed or have hubs. And I love, and that's why
that's our approach to, because obviously, when COVID hit, we saw the opportunity to bring in some people that we had wanted to hire for a long time, but who were not necessarily willing to move to Paris. So we started going a bit more decentralized, distributed, and it worked great at the beginning, but eventually we started to lose a bit, touch together, and we started to hire people that we had never met, physically, and they would just spend 6 months there, and then they would leave because they had no connection with the rest of the team. And this is why we decided, okay, we knew we would never go back to being fully centralized in Paris, like concentrated there. That wouldn't make any sense. But so we had to adapt. So instead, we created this idea of hubs, which are not really like studios in the old-fashioned way, where you have the Paris studio and the Montreal studio, and they all work on like a part of the game together, and you have a game director, a tech director, like the different. It's like a full team and a full team. It was more about it's a home base. It's like we're all part of the same global community, but then we can also create some local communities, and they need a place together. So we opened offices in these 3 locations. We're actually going to probably open 2 more this year, where we create great premises. There's always someone responsible for the local community animation, where they gather and they just hang out, and they are together. And it's funny because while we're not forcing them to go to the office, like there's no mandatory presence. If I look at our Barcelona studio, I think they're always there like 4 days a week, and they don't have to, but they just come there because they're actually enjoying being together. And it's the fastest growing team that I've seen at Darewise.
I'm crazy impressed with you guys. Also, in the way that you've managed the company, you've managed to strike a balance between the old and the new, and get somewhere in the middle that is very effective. And that's why you're getting good results on basically performance and happiness and culture.
And
And
took us a long time to get there, but we started to finally kind of earn the rewards for this, but took a hell of and just figuring out. I don't know if they're listening, but really shout out to Nathan, who's our operations manager, and Sam, our co-founder, our CTO. Like they're really worked it out. Like, okay, what is it? How can we fix this? And so actually they moved to Barcelona, both of them, to open the office there. They're super happy there. They come back. Like it's great, but like cracking the model was very difficult. And of course, there is not a single answer that works for everyone, but this worked out pretty well for us.
that is honestly props to you guys. And I think everyone who's an entrepreneur listening to this should be taking a page out of their book, because I think that what we had pre-COVID and what we have post-COVID, probably somewhere in the middle is where the magic is. And I think you guys have struck a nice balance. My next question is, if I'm someone interested in working at Life Beyond and Darewise, what are the capabilities and aptitudes that you guys are looking for in your talent?
So, it's so vague right now, so wide, because we have so many positions to fill. But obviously, every game developer position, from 3D texture, concept, game design, system design, tech design, programming, backend, gameplay, tech, is really something that we're looking for. And on this front, I think the skills that we're going to be looking for are people who are really willing to join the AAA industry, which is a little bit different from the indie world. So you have to be comfortable with this kind of level of demanding work. So it's like building 3D assets in the 3D world, in the AAA world, is obviously different than when you do more like hyper casual and mobile. And when it comes to programming, it's obviously a high level of proficiency in C++, which again is less common. But we're also looking for people in the blockchain area, where this is actually the place where we are still building up our expertise here. Blockchain engineer, to really come and strengthen our capacity. And that is really it on the development front. Then of course we're also expanding on the publishing front, events management, marketing, community, publishing, and partnership. So many different things. But we're staffing everything. We're even hiring in finance. So it's going to be a busy year.
Well, I hope everyone listened to that. It seems like they're building an army at Darewise. So I encourage everyone, if you want to be working on a AAA next generation video game that's likely to disrupt, the video game industry, this is the place to look at. And again, I encourage everyone also to look at their careers page where they talk about the ethos, and which I really, really liked. And they have multiple hubs where you can work from, obviously. So one thing Benjamin, we like to end the interviews here with Bondex is, obviously blockchain and Web3 is not going through its best moment. We're in a bit of a winter. Actually, we've started the year pretty strong. So let's see how long. Let's see how. Hopefully, it was really a short one. I'm really liking how things are shaping up, right? But what is your feeling on the current market? What are some of the opportunities and that you think that comes from this period of time, right?
So for me, it was really like, when I ended up 2022 being like, of course, it was a hard way to conclude the year, but to me, it did absolutely never challenged the ethos of decentralization. Kind of the opposite; it strengthened it. Um, the technology itself, did not fail at all. What failed was how we managed to re-centralize without regulation, which now we know very well is not a good thing. So I think people started to understand better, became more curious, and of course, a lot of people got even more scared. But what it called for me, or what it triggered in me, was great. We're going to have a year that is going to be a bit more quiet, and where we can really focus on building. I felt that in 2022, the externalities were kind of like pushing us to do things that were not super healthy. So, for instance, every project was trying to push NFTs and had to sell out. It was like this obsession of let's sell out our NFT collection because that's the only way to prove that we're a badass project and super successful. And so if you were like, but I'm not ready to push NFTs, I still have a lot of things to figure out, then people would read you like as, oh, this is not a good project because they don't have like a massive Genesis collection that is sold out. So it was creating a lot of pressure. And to be honest, sometimes we kind of, we just give up. We just gave up. We did a few stuff like that because we felt like we had to, rather than like listening to, our core that was saying, why there's no rush. It's not like you guys need funding, so why run going for this? So that's the first thing. And so 2022, it's 2023 feels like that's great. There are a lot of people, it washed off, of course, a lot of people. Unfortunately, some people got hurt in the process. But now we can build foundations that are super solid where we can now expand, really show why decentralization is so valuable. And in a way, I'm not super excited to see the market recovering this much, this fast. Even though, I'm happy to look at my wallet and see, the valuation of my portfolio increasing every day. But I know, I had no doubt that eventually we would recover anyway, and I would be happy if it was a bit slower, so that we can really, take the time to do things properly. We need a bit of time. Like this has just been insane. 2021 and 2022. We need to get a bit more time.
I completely agree with you. I think less volatility, more sustainability, and value creation that builds because of solid business foundations, business models, product market fits, and reasonable timelines versus quick buck. So, Benjamin, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic to talk to you.
I'd love pleasure. Thank you.
After this, and I just want to thank everyone that tuned in. And if you're watching this, we went a little bit over because this was such an interesting conversation. And I just want to thank everyone, and obviously Benjamin from Darewise to coming and sharing a lot about life beyond and his views on Web3. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good day.